Okay, hello there, I'm Dennis. Welcome to my channel. So my question is, if you have a HP Z240, like this one, and the back panel looks like this one, with no video I/O except for the display ports, then this video will help you possibly if you decide to use a Nvidia card, and we'll look at some of your options here in a second. So what happened was, when I would boot in, or when I would turn my machine on, it would bypass all of the BIOS settings and I couldn't get into it. And it would only load, I would only see video on the monitor after Fedora started to actually load. And this is not a Fedora problem. This is, I found my answers I found on a Windows website. So apparently this affects Windows as well. If you're using the display port on the back of your machine into a UEFI, not a UEFI, into a HDMI dongle converter, then it'll bypass the BIOS until the system starts to actually load. So what that does for you, it means you can't get into your BIOS. And I wanted to get into the BIOS. I think it's important to check the time, if nothing else, occasionally. So, and I couldn't get into it. Found that research, through that research, I found out that it was the video portion on this card, the chipset, wouldn't allow the using the DP to HDMI dongle. It would not load the video drivers until the system itself started to load. At that point, it would show up, Fedora would load normally. But I wanted to get into my BIOS. Okay, so I had a Nvidia card that I pulled out of a Dell T3620, I believe, right here, because I tried to load OpenSUSE on it, and I couldn't even get a screen to install OpenSUSE. So I pulled this graphics card out, and I knew I had that. I needed to get into the BIOS. I think everybody should get into the BIOS occasionally. Like I said, if nothing else, just to check your time. At first, I didn't stick this card. I have an older Radeon card, and I tried that, and it would just crash. When I would get it to actually boot into Fedora, just right in the middle of something, it would just, X server would just cut out. It would log me out, and I'd have to log back in, and it was a nightmare. So I stuck this Nvidia card in here, and it was having pretty much the same struggle. I would be in the middle of researching what to do about it, and it would just crash. But during the post, it would get through my BIOS, and I could go into my BIOS. And I saw that it was set to boot to USB first. So that's the reason why I hadn't really had to worry about it. So first thing I did was I went to HP, Hewlett Packard support for the Z224. And here it is right here. If I go up here and click on graphics, you'll see that the only card that they list here that will work in this machine is an AMD FirePro, which is right here. And you'll notice it only has 2 display ports, no other option. And I wasn't going to settle for that. So we untick this integrated Intel graphics here, and it's got that display ports here, but it says note, for DVI and VGA outputs, separate adapters may be required. So first thing I thought to do was go to Nvidia and look for their download, or look in their drivers for Linux, look for the Nvidia drivers available for Linux. So you'll come to here, their downloads, and I searched for it. You click on this, and you can download it, which is what I did. This says it's disabled fixed rate when using passive display port to HDMI dongle, which are incompatible with FRL. So they fixed that. I guess that must have been a problem for Nvidia as well. If you go to supported products, you can see here it is, GeForce 7010. So I knew this was the right driver. gives you additional information, tells you what to do with that once you download it. They tell you to CD into that directory, which was the downloads directory, and run this command right here as super user, as root, and which is what I did. Right. Well, first thing I did was when I downloaded, I CD'd to it ls just to make sure it was there, and I chmodded it, modified it to make it executable. Then I ran that command. It would look like it was going to work, but I would get a screen, and unfortunately, I wasn't able to capture that screen. In fact, I'd get two. The first one said that it was looking for Wayland support that only had the X server and it required something to do with Wayland. Well, I'm not going to use Wayland if I don't have to. It's just that simple. When you'd click OK on that, then it would say you can look at the log and tell you what's happening, and note nothing was installed. So I said, okay, closed out all that. I tried it twice just to make sure that it wasn't me. Before I went to the next step, though, I did run this command right here, sudo dnf remove, and under the asterisks or in between the two asterisks, Nvidia, just to make sure there was nothing on my system after this attempt concerning Nvidia. I also run this command at the time to make sure that it was gone, and it was absolutely gone. So continue on here. Since this failed from the Nvidia website, how to Nvidia from rpmfusion.org. So right here is listed Legacy GeForce 706 and 700 series. Click on that. And that's what I did. I updated and I installed the X11 driver Nvidia and ACMod, kernel mod Nvidia 470. And I also elected to go ahead and install this CUDA. That would have been right here. Sudo dnf install xorg Nvidia, ACMod, Nvidia, and the CUDA. Once I done that, I rebooted. And I tell you, I was able to get right into my BIOS without any problem. I see that screen now. And I ran this command right here to make sure that Nvidia was working. Run it right here. You'll see all the video drivers or graphic drivers are Nvidia now. If it would have been any Nouveau drivers, which is what it was running on when I was having such a headache, I would have been perfectly happy with Nouveau if it would have worked. I wouldn't have minded a bit, but it was not working. So that's what I did. If you're running a Z240 HP small form factor, you're going to have to do something to get into the BIOS. And that's how I did it. I installed an Nvidia card. Now, you do have all these other cards that would work. Wow, so far. Back up here and just click on graphic. Close the integrated one out. So you do have these options out here, but I already had an Nvidia card, and I was not going to spend $75 or what it was going to be to get this to work. So I'll supply these links in here, and if you're having the same problem, don't run off and buy this card if you've already got a Nvidia GT7. I think mine, what was it, a 720? 710. Exactly. And if if you want to use your DP to HDMI dongle and want to get into your BIOS, at least for me, it would not work. So that's going to do it with this really short video. I just hope this helps somebody else. To be honest, I've been in and around computers since probably 98, I guess. And I've heard about them before then, like everybody else back then. But anyway, I used to dabble in computers, fixing them up. People would call me. I'd go over and find out what was wrong. Eventually, people would start bringing them to me. Even at one time, for several years, when somebody was they bought a new computer, sometimes they would give me their old one. Sometimes I would buy it. But either case, I would take it and fix it up, clean it out, first of all, put new thermal paste on the computer PCU or CPU. In other words, I've been in and around computers for quite a while now, and this is actually the very first time I've ever seen this. I've never encountered this before. So that's why I'm putting the video out there. I just hope it really helps somebody. It would have helped me because to start with, I was like, I put it off for months because, everything was working. But eventually, like I said before, I wanted to get into the BIOS, if nothing else, just to check the time. While I was in there, I verified some other things, like for its first boot, it's going to be USB and then the hard drive. So anyway, that's going to do it. I appreciate you guys watching. Peace out. Bye.